where today we are going to be doing a 3-round mock draft. Now, before we get into this video, make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed and don't want to miss out on more content. And if you enjoyed the video as well, make sure to leave a like and comment down below some of your thoughts on this mock draft. Since it is a 3-round mock draft, I will be going over the picks very quickly just to make sure this video isn't an hour long. So just keep that in mind. There's not going to be as much analysis of each pick because I want to get through this a little quicker since we have 100 picks to get through. But without further ado, with the first pick in this 3-round mock draft, I'm going to switch it up and I'm going to have the Titans go with Abdul Carter. There's an argument to be made that he is the best player in the draft. It's probably him or Travis Hunter. Just to switch it up from what I've been doing, I'll let the Titans go Abdul Carter. They do need an edge rusher as well. But I will have the Browns then switch it up and go Travis Hunter at 2. Potentially the best player in the draft. In this case, he is, I guess, potentially the second best player in the draft. If the Browns don't go quarterback, in this case, they would obviously go with Travis Hunter. But I don't think the quarterbacks fall that far, and I do think the Giants, if Cam Ward falls to them, do take him at 3. I don't know if they'll take Shedeur if he's available at 3, but I think if Cam Ward's available at 3, they will go with him. They need a quarterback desperately. Cam Ward's probably the best quarterback in the class. It's not the best quarterback class, but if you need a quarterback as bad as the Giants do, and the best one is still available, I think it makes perfect sense for them to take him at 3. Patriots at 4. I've done McMillan a lot, but recently I've liked getting them Will Campbell at 4. And that's because the Patriots have a ton of money. They have like $120 million in cap or whatever. And there are so many good, not only is there so many good free agent receivers, but there's a decent amount of receivers that could end up getting cut or traded. And the Patriots have the money to do so. But there's not, you can't say the same thing. You can't say that same thing with tackles and O-linemen. So I like the Patriots to be able to get their franchise tackle at 4 and then spend all their money and resources to get Drake May some receivers. However, I don't think McMillan falls very far. I know the Jags, it says here they don't need receiver. Outside of Brian Thomas, what do you really have? So I like Teteroy McMillan going to the Jags at 5 if he's available, of course, if the Patriots don't go with him. Best receiver in the class, at least true receiver. But potentially the best receiver in general. Again, as I mentioned, they don't have anything outside of Brian Thomas. You paid Gabe Davis last year, but that didn't really work the best. And you now get Trevor Lawrence, Bigsby, Etienne, Evan Ingram, Brian Thomas, McMillan, and you still do have Gabe Davis. That's a pretty good offense around Lawrence. Get him some O-line help as well. And that could be a very good offense with their new head coach, Liam Cohen. Raiders at 6. I do think this is where we see Shedeur Sanders go. They need a quarterback. It seems like he wants to go to Las Vegas, but that might have just been when they had like the top pick. But they do need a quarterback, and I don't think a guy like Shedeur falls past. I don't think he goes past the Jets pick at 7. I think once the Jets make their pick, both quarterbacks will be off the board. But the Jets can't take Shedeur in this case. And a position they could definitely use is their defense, mainly their secondary. Will Johnson is dropped in this ranking, but I still really like Will Johnson. Pair him alongside Sauce Gardner because they're probably going to lose DJ Reed. And you can have a very good corner duo with him and Sauce. Panthers at 8. They have to probably just take the best defensive player left on the board because how bad their defense was. And I think that is easily Mason Graham here at 8. Pairing him alongside Derek Brown would be probably the best interior D-line duo for at least young one in the league. So, and their run defense was horrible. So now you're technically adding Graham and Brown from last year's team. I hopefully should help their run defense a lot. Saints at 9. I think they either go tackle or edge here. But without Will Campbell on the board, I don't really see you going tackle. So I like them going towards the edge rusher, pass rusher route, and it's pretty much who do you value most out of Pierce Green and Mykel Williams. I think Mykel Williams will end up getting drafted highest of the three to the first team that takes an edge rusher when it's those three guys left. And I think the Saints need help on that edge because Cam Jordan's getting old and they don't really have a lot on that pass rushing unit. Bears at 10. I know people potentially want him to take Ashton Jeanty because, you got Ben Johnson with his 2 running back system. But their O-line was just so bad last year. I think they have to take an O-lineman. And it's either do you go Josh Simmons or do you go Kelvin Banks. I personally like Kelvin Banks just a little bit more. And as I mentioned, the Bears need O-line so bad that it just makes perfect sense for them to go with Kelvin Banks, in my opinion. Or at least just an offensive lineman. Niners at 11. Another team that I've taken that I've either considered going offensive lineman or edge rusher with. And I'm actually going to switch it up here. And I'm going to go offensive lineman because Josh Simmons is available. Trent Williams is 36 years old, and we don't know when he's going to either retire or not be on the Niners in general. They're running out of money. So to sort of reset and get a young tackle in there can help a lot. And outside of that, they just need linemen. Their line isn't the best. So I think the best lineman left is Josh Simmons. Cowboys at 12. It's Ashton Jeanty to me. Perfect range for a guy like Jeanty to go. 10 to the Bears is like when you should start considering taking him. And the Cowboys need a running back so bad, especially if Rico Dowdle leaves. Now, who knows what they do in free agency? And Ashton Jeanty has said he wants to play for the Cowboys as well, so I think it just makes perfect sense. Another common pick here, Malachi Starks to the Dolphins. It seems like Javon Holland might leave, and if that's the case, they desperately need help at safety. And they probably just need help on defense in general, and Malachi Starks is the best player on defense left on the board. Colts at 14, Tyler Warren as per usual. Their offense, like their young players on offense, is basically complete outside of tight end. You got Jonathan Taylor, you got Pittman, you got Downs, you got Pierce, you got Mitchell. The O-line's still good. All you're really missing to complete the young offense around whatever quarterback, whether it's Anthony Richardson or not, is tight end. And Tyler Warren at 14, I think, is great value. I've seen him go 7 to the Jets. So to get him 14, if you're the Colts, I think is great. Falcons at 15. An edge rusher has been a common need for the Falcons. And I know he's not technically listed as an edge rusher, but he basically is an edge rusher hybrid with like off-ball linebacker, and that's Jalen Walker. And the reason I like this to the Falcons is because their needs say they need edge and linebacker, and Jalen Walker can basically do both. He can play that off-ball linebacker role, but he can also rush the passer, and the Falcons need both. I know they could very well go pure edge rusher just because that's how bad their pass rush was, but I think since they need help in the linebacker department as well, a guy like Jalen Walker can help them fit and fill both needs. And he might be one of the better players left on the board because he's going to go high in the draft. So to get him at 15, keep him in Atlanta as well. Great pick for the Falcons. Cardinals at 16. I've done this a lot for them. I've just given them the best tackle on the board because outside of Paris Johnson, who they drafted 2 years ago, I think, they really could use help on that in that tackle position. And I like a guy like Armin Membo. I'm pretty sure he plays the opposite tackle position of Paris Johnson, if I remember correctly. And he can just help protect Kyler Murray. And maybe they could get some defensive receiver later on in the draft. Bengals at 17. Another common pick here has been Kenneth Grant. They need help on the defense very badly. However, I do think that, they could go with a guy like Jahdae Barron or an edge rusher. But I think they need that D-line position just a little bit more. And I still think Kenneth Grant is one of the better defensive players left on the board anyway. Seahawks at 18. I've drafted O-linemen to them for a while now. But with a guy like James Pierce on the board, I don't think they could pass up on it, especially considering they need edge rush. I just thought they needed O-line a little more than pass rush. But again, as I said, with a guy like James Pierce on the board, you can't pass up on that type of talent if you're the Seahawks. And similar with the Bucks, I'm going to have them take Mike Green, another edge rusher. Again, they probably need corner more, but they could use edge rush help. And Mike Green is the best player on the board, in my opinion. Just a little bit over Jahdae Barron and Walter Nolan and those guys. And I think it makes perfect sense for them to take a guy like Mike Green. Because if you can rush the passer, your corners don't have to do as much for longer. Broncos at 20 and Steelers at 21. Common picks here. Luther Burden to the Broncos at 20 and Emeka Egbuka to the Steelers at 21. Broncos need receivers. They just have Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, and Courtland Sutton. I know Bo Nix did well with those guys, but you need to improve that receiver room, and Luther Burden is a great start. And then Emeka Egbuka to Pittsburgh. Outside of George Pickens, they don't really have much. Calvin Austin has shown you some flashes, but it's really just George Pickens, and who knows if the Steelers want George Pickens or not. But whether you have Pickens or not, Egbuka is clearly the best receiver left and a great receiver to get to pair along with whatever quarterback you have. Chargers at 22. Another team that could use offense, but I don't really like any of the offensive players left. So I think they go edge because Khalil Mack could leave. Joey Bosa is really old. And I like Shamar Stewart a lot at 22 to the Chargers. Get some youth in that edge rush, in that front seven. They got a lot of youth in the secondary that played well last year and overall. But now you can add some of that to the D-line as well with Shamar Stewart, who I really like. Packers at 23. I think this is where we finally see Jahdae Barron go. The Packers need help in that secondary, especially if Jair Alexander leaves. And Jahdae Barron is probably the best overall player left on the board at that time. And he's definitely the best corner left. And before the corners start falling, I think the Vikings get on in this little corner run and they go Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. Again, sometimes with these mock drafts, I'm just worried about the position when there's like a bunch of guys that are like similar, like Amos and Revel and Morrison and Jahdae Barron. I just try and get that. I just think the Vikings will go corner here at 24. That was their one weakness defensively. Their defense was very good, but in terms of like age and performance, they don't really have that outside corner because Gilmore and Shaquille Griffin are your like boundary corners. They're on the older side. That's not going to necessarily get it done. So I like Trey Amos to come in behind those guys and eventually take that spot. Texans at 25, another common pick for me. They need help on the O-line so bad. Stroud was the most sacked quarterback or second. He might have been the second most sacked quarterback behind Caleb Williams, or he was the first. And Tyler Booker is here. I know the website has him ranked 49th, and maybe that's true or not. But I don't think 25 is a crazy reach for when you need O-line so bad if you're Houston. And another position they could go after D lineman, interior D lineman, receiver. You can get those guys in the second round. I don't think Tyler Booker makes it to you in the second. So I like the Texans getting him at 25. Rams at 26. I've taken tackles to them quite frequently. But I'm going to switch it up here. I'm going to give them a corner. Because they could use some help in that as well. And it's either Siobhan Revel or Benjamin Morrison for me. I like Siobhan Revel just a little bit more. But again, I don't really know the differences too much. I just tend to take... I think they take a corner in that spot out of those two guys. Ravens at 27. Another common position sort of is O-line. They could go corner, but honestly, their secondary started off slow but played much better later in the season. So I don't think they need to necessarily prioritize corner, especially after getting Nate Wiggins last year. So I like Gray Zabel to them, potentially, arguably the best tackle left on the board. They need help in that a lot, especially some youth. So I like Gray Zabel to the Ravens. Lions at 28, I've drafted them edge rush a lot because outside of Aiden Hutchinson, what do you have? And we all believe Aiden Hutchinson can recover fully, but maybe it takes him a little bit, or maybe he goes through another something during the season, right? And just having depth, we saw with the Lions, they needed depth, and to get a young, up and coming pass rusher like Nick Scorton, who I'm going to have them taking at 28. And even if Aiden Hutchinson is completely fully healthy, which we all hope so, getting a guy like Nick Scorton next to him is still great. So, Commanders at 29. I think their biggest weakness is probably their secondary. I don't think they necessarily need to go any of these interior D linemen. I don't think you go Hampton or Matthew Golden. And I think their secondary was very bad. It could use a lot of help. They even traded for Marshawn Lattimore to improve their secondary, and he didn't play the greatest for the Commanders. Wasn't the worst, but I like Benjamin Morrison here to the Commanders. They kind of whiffed on Emmanuel Forbes. Benjamin St. Juste hasn't been the best. So hopefully they can hit with this pick here at corner with Benjamin Morrison. Bills at 30. I think it's easy Walter Nolan. They need interior D lineman. He's probably the best player left on the board. Honestly, I think it makes perfect sense because I don't think you take any of the corners that are left at 30, and you could go Matthew Golden, but I think Walter Nolan not only is the better player out of those two, but also fits a more important need. Chiefs at 31, they have to go a lineman. They have no choice but to go a lineman. Pat Mahomes, for the second Super Bowl in his career, was running for his life. He did that against the Bucs, and they got a good O-line, and then it kind of faded away, and he had to run for his life again versus the Eagles. Out of which tackle do you like the best? It's your preference, but I'll go Josh Connerly. The rankings have him up there. I think he had a good Senior Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. I know he got like bull rushed by Mike Green or whatever, but overall, I like Josh Connerly. And then the Eagles at 32. It's always hard to pick for the Eagles for me because they're probably one of the more complete rosters in the league. They don't really have a lot of needs. So I imagine what free agents they could lose. You know, they got to pay a guy like Zach Bond. They got to pay a guy like Josh Sweat. And I think with the performance of their D-line in the Super Bowl, even though Josh Sweat was arguably the best player on that D-line in that Super Bowl, they could probably afford to lose a guy like Josh Sweat. And if they do, I think they will look towards edge here at 32. And I like Donovan Ezeraku. Don't know if I'm saying that right. Out of Boston College, I like him at 32 to the Eagles. Next, now in the second round, this is where we'll speed it up a little more. Browns took Travis Hunter. I had this pick in my second round two round mock draft, and that's Jackson Dart. I think people view him as the next quarterback to get taken after Shedeur and Cam Ward. Browns need a quarterback so bad, and you still get a guy like Jackson Dart, who maybe you view as similar to Shedeur or Cam Ward, and you also get Travis Hunter as well. Giants, they took Cam Ward, so I like to give, when the team takes a young rookie quarterback, they like to give him a fellow rookie receiver to grow with and learn with through rookie minicamp. And Matthew Golden being on the board is just perfect at 34 to pair alongside Cam Ward. Titans at 35 took Abdul Carter. This may be a reach, but when team needs quarterbacks, especially in the second round, they seem to reach on them. I don't know if the Titans go second round quarterback with Will Levis and then second round quarterback here, but I just have a feeling that maybe they'll give it another try because I think a guy like Jalen Milroe is going to test well at the combine, and I think that could rise his value to a high second round pick potentially. Jags at 36, they took McMillan at 5. They can now shift their focus on defense, and the best player available is Derek Carman. I think it makes perfect sense for the Jags at 36. Raiders at 37, they got their quarterback with Shedeur. Give him some help. Offensively, you obviously don't need a tight end. It's either running back or receiver if you're going this route. And a guy like a Marion Hampton is sitting right here at 37. I think that's a steal for Hampton. I think he's a late first round, early second round type of guy. And the Raiders didn't have any run game, so to get him at 37 is great. Patriots at 38, they got Will Campbell. I actually like to double down for the Patriots at O-line. And I like, mainly reason I like Donovan Jackson is he has played left guard too. So although you took Will Campbell, Donovan Jackson can kind of play both for you. And just work on that O-line and spend money at receiver in free agency, potentially trade for one, and use this draft to get your franchise O-line around May. Bears at 39, they got Kelvin Banks. I know people want him to take running backs, but without Hampton on the board, I think they go to their next biggest need, which is pass rush. Outside of Montez Sweat, you didn't have much, and I really like Princely. I don't know how to say his last name, but I really like Princely over the rest of these guys, so I like him to the Bears at 39. Saints at 40, they got Mykel Williams. Now I think they can shift to that O-line. It's which one of these guys do you like the best? I'll give them Ariante Ursary out of Minnesota. Bears at 41, they just got their edge. And you know what? I think they doubled down on the O-line because I would argue their bigger O-line need is interior O-line, but there just isn't any worth taking at 10. And Kelvin Banks is worth taking at 10. So I think they now shift to the interior of the O-line because that's probably their bigger weakness anyway. And I think they go Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. Jets at 42. Last time in my second round, 2-round mock draft, I had them take Milroe here at 42. But Milroe got taken. He's off the board. So I don't think they go tight end or quarterback. And I think, as I accidentally said, I think they go tight end here because a guy like Colston Loveland is just sitting on the board at 42. I think I've seen him getting taken in the first round before. So to have him taken at 42, I think is great value. And I accidentally gave the Niners Demetrius Knight, and I'm actually not mad about it. I was going to give them Darius Alexander, but I'll give them Demetrius Knight. It was on accident, I promise. But the Niners get Demetrius Knight at 43. Cowboys at 44. I was going to give them Darius Alexander. For any Niners fans watching, I was going to give you guys Darius Alexander. And for any Darius Alexander fans out there, Toledo fans. Cowboys at 44, they got Ashton Jeanty. Keep building that offense, in my opinion. CeeDee Lamb needs help. I like Alek Eyomanor out of Stanford as the next best guy available. Colts at 45. They need help in the secondary, so I like them going with Darian Porter here out of Iowa State. Falcons at 46. They got their edge rusher / linebacker and Jalen Walker. Why not double down on the linebacker needs? Because I do think Jalen Walker will primarily rush the passer. Alabama's Jahad Campbell can fill that true linebacker need for you. Cardinals at 47. I think they go D-line here. And I guess technically they go with... I won't have them take Darius Alexander, and I'll have Demetrius Knight. The team who I had taking Demetrius Knight, I'll have them take Darius Alexander and just flip it with the Niners. So I'll have the Cardinals go with TJ Sanders here out of South Carolina as technically the best D lineman on the board if you exclude Darius Alexander, who was supposed to go to the Niners. Dolphins at 48. I think you go tackle here. I think it's easy. They really need help on that O-line. I like Wyatt Millam as the next best tackle available for the Dolphins. Bengals at 49. Double down on defense. They already got Kenneth Grant. Get some more D-line help. I like these three guys. Who do you like the best out of them is up to you. I'll go Jack Sawyer to the Bengals. Seahawks at 50. I take O-line a lot to them. However, I went with James Pierce because I think it was too good to pass up on. But now I think they can go O-lineman with some good guys left available more in this range. But I'm actually going to go Jonah. I don't know how to say his last name either. And why I like him to the Seahawks is Seahawks probably need guard more than they need tackle. But Jonah has played guard before, so they might just be taking him as a guard who can also give him some good tackle reps as well. Here is where I had Demetrius Knight going. I had him going to the Buccaneers at 51 because they really need help on the linebacker position. But I'll have them go Darius Alexander and just have him. That is the Niners pick, and the Niners pick of Demetrius Knight right here is the Bucs pick. Just keep that in mind. Now, Broncos at 52. They got their receiver in Luther Burden. So, I think without a good tight end worth taking on the board, without a good linebacker worth taking on the board, I don't mind Xavier Watts to them at safety. Pair him. You lost Justin Simmons. You can give PS2 sort of that help in that safety department. He can be your Justin Simmons replacement. Steelers at 53, excuse me. I think they need help in the cornerback department. I know this may be a bit of a reach, but I think they have to take corner here. You're not going to go QB. You already got your receiver. I like Maxwell Hairston to Pittsburgh at 53. Chargers at 54, they got an edge rusher, so now they can focus on offense. But they do have pick 86, and they also have a ton of money, so I don't think they'll necessarily go receiver here at 54. You could go with a guy like Jack Beck. But I actually like running back here because just like receivers, there are a lot of good running backs. You got Scatterbo, Dylan Sampson, Caleb Johnson, Henderson, and Judkins in those next guys past Hampton and Genty. And I personally like Henderson the most. I think he will be viewed the highest by the pro teams. I think he has the most NFL talent out of all the guys, so I think he'll go to the Chargers at 54. Packers at 55, they need help at the edge rush position. They got their corner in Jahdae Barron. Add to that, because I do think they need a number one receiver, but I don't think taking a guy at 55 is going to be any different than all your other young receivers. If they want to take a swing at a number one receiver, I think it's more of a veteran versus another rookie. So I don't think they take a receiver here. I think they go edge rusher, especially with a guy like JT and Landon Jackson available. I'll have them go Landon Jackson at 55. Bills at 56. They got their D lineman in Walter Nolan. I think they could go receiver here. And Jack Beck, I think, is too good to pass up on at 56 for the Bills. I think another receiver goes here to the Texans. And I think Jaden Higgins is the best. I mean, you could go Restrepo, but I don't think you need a slot guy. I think they have those covered with Tank Dell. Hopefully he's okay. But I like Jaden Higgins as sort of that next best receiver available. They might lose Diggs this offseason. Dell might not play this season. You need somebody outside of Nico Collins to catch the ball. I like Jaden Higgins. Panthers at 58. They got Mason Graham. And as I mentioned, they should probably just be taking the best defensive guys on the board. I don't think you go double down on D lineman, but the next best guy that isn't a D lineman on defense is JT. I think the Panthers to get him at 58 would be great because they have nobody to rush the passer outside of Clowney and DJ Wonnum. You need some youth. You need some top prospect play at that pass rusher position. Ravens at 59. I like receiver to them. I like Restrepo as the next best receiver out of these guys, but they already have Zay Flowers as that slot guy. You have Bateman as one of the outside receivers. I think Jalen Royals is the next best outside receiver, so I like him to the Ravens at 59. Lions at 60, they got Nick Scorton. Again, they could go O-line here to get some youth in that interior O-line, but I don't think there's guys that they would take at 60. And a guy that I don't know too much about is Carson Schlesinger out of UCLA. They need help at linebacker. I like him to the Lions at 60. Commanders at 61. I have them going Jared Ivey here. They got Benjamin Morrison with their first round pick. And I think they should go a lot on defense and spend their money on receiver. So I like edge rush, especially Ivy being the best one available. To the Commanders at 61, Bills at 62. They need D linemen, but they already got their guy in Walter Nolan, so they don't need to go another. So I think the route they go is the secondary because I don't think they go receiver. There may not be Aziri Thomas is obviously the best corner left. He may not be worth taking at 62, but I like Aziri Thomas to the Bills. They need youth in that secondary. They have a lot of older guys, and outside of Christian Benford, you need something. You need some, as I mentioned, youth there. So I like Aziri Thomas. To the Bills at 62. Chiefs at 63. They got their O-lineman in Josh Connerly. They honestly could go after another just to have. But with them needing D-linemen, with the best player on the board being a D-lineman, I like Tyleik Williams to the Chiefs at 63. Eagles at 64. Again, a team that doesn't have a lot of needs. They got Ezeraku at 32. And a pick I actually liked to them is Xavier Restrepo. The reason I like this pick is at the receiver position, they have Devonta Smith, who's an outside receiver. They have A.J. Brown, who's an outside receiver. They don't have a slot guy. I'm pretty sure Devonta Smith can play in the slot, but I think he's more primarily an outside guy. Xavier Restrepo not only is the best receiver on the board, but he's the best slot receiver on the board. I thought about Tez Johnson, but I like Restrepo a little bit more than Tez Johnson to the Eagles at 64. Now moving on to round 3. Giants are first. They have Cam Ward and Matthew Golden. Why not add to the offense? Add to the Texas Longhorns offense and get a guy like Cameron Williams at 65. They need somebody, because Evan Neal has not worked. They need somebody next to Andrew Thomas. Get a guy like Cameron Williams. Chiefs at 66. They need help on the O-line still. I think they could go after some interior guy, especially with Trey Smith potentially leaving. I like Willie Lampkin to the Chiefs at 66. Browns at 67. They got Travis Hunter and Jackson Dart. Just like the Giants, give that quarterback some protection. Go with Ozzie Trapolo out of Boston College. Raiders at 68. They got a quarterback and a running back. Why not get a receiver? I like Isaiah Bond to the Raiders at 68. Patriots at 69. They got 2 tackles / guards. So I personally like giving them a running back. I could still see them drafting a receiver, but I think they're going to spend so much money on receiver and get a really good guy that I actually like them getting a running back here. And my next best running back, in my opinion, is Caleb Johnson. I feel like people aren't talking about Caleb Johnson enough. I really like him as the 4th best running back. Jags at 70. They got a receiver and D lineman. So I think they should add to that O-line, get the best center on the board, Jared Wilson out of Georgia. Saints at 71. They got an edge and a tackle. I think they need a receiver. I think this is where we see Savion Williams go as the best receiver on the board. Pair him alongside with a hopefully healthy Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. They didn't really need Tez Johnson because they kind of have that in Rashid Shaheed. Bears at 72. They got a tackle, a guard, and an edge. You know what? They could spend money on running back to pair along Swift, but why not give them Cam Skattebo, potentially the best running back? It's either him or Dylan Sampson as the next best running back on the board. I really like Cam Skattebo as my 5th best running back. Bears can pair him alongside Swift. Raiders, they have their quarterback, halfback, and receiver. What's the last need they have is corner, but I don't really like the corners left at least when it comes to taking them at 73. But you know who I do like for the Raiders? That's Kyle Kennard. I've given them Abdul Carter before, so I could easily see them going pass rusher at some point in the draft. And Kyle Kennard is the clear best pass rusher left on the board. Panthers at 74. They got D lineman and pass rusher. So without any corners worth taking, I think they can focus on receiver here. And you know what? I think this is where we could see a Tez Johnson go. Because they do have Thielen, obviously, as their go-to slot guy. But he's like 35 years old. And you don't have a slot guy to replace that. Why not get the super fast Tez Johnson, and maybe Bryce Young can just finally throw some deep balls to some receivers down the field. Niners at 75. They don't necessarily need D linemen. Says here they do. You can't pass up on a guy like Shamar Turner or Alfred Collins. I like Alfred Collins going to the Niners at 75. Cowboys at 76. They got a halfback at receiver, so their offense is kind of set for now, at least when it comes to the draft. So do you go tackle or do you go edge? I like edge rusher here. I like Josiah Stewart out of Michigan. I think they need edge more than D-line, so I think they'll pass on Shamar Turner and Josiah Farmer, and I think they'll go Josiah Stewart out of Michigan. Patriots, they got 2 linemen and a halfback, and I think this is where we see them get their first receiver. I like Trey Harris as the best one left to the Patriots at 77. Cardinals at 78. I think they go D-line here. I think they go Shamar Turner. I don't think you can pass up on a guy like Shamar Turner at 78. And they could also use help at that position as well. Commanders at 79. I like O-line here. There's a clear best O-lineman left, and that's Marcus Mimbo. I think that's how you say it. Out of Purdue. Because the Commanders spent a lot of their money last year on the interior line, but not on tackles. So I like Mimbo to the Commanders at 79. Colts could use an edge rusher here. Jordan Birch is the clear best edge rusher left. I like him to the Colts at 80. Bengals at 81. They got a D lineman and an edge rusher. So you know what? They could go receiver. They could go guard. I think they got to just keep getting players on defense. They don't need a D-line. They don't need an edge. They could go linebacker, Chris Paul, or you go safety, Sebastian Castro. I like Sebastian Castro because he can play in the box as well, but he can also help you in your secondary too. Seahawks at 82. I think they're the ones who go with Chris Paul. They need a linebacker. He's the clear best linebacker on the board. I think it's an easy pick for them. Buccaneers at 83. They got an edge and a D lineman. Well, no, the edge and linebacker because they took Demetrius Knight. So I think they go with their third need that says here secondary. I think they go Mello Dotson out of Kansas. Broncos at 84. They got a receiver and a safety. I think this is where they get running back because they do still have, McLaughlin and Javonte Williams, so I don't think they go running back high. But with a guy like Dylan Sampson on the board, or even Quinshon Judkins, I think it's an easy pick for them to go Dylan Sampson at 84. Pittsburgh at 85. This might be a surprising pick here, but who knows who Pittsburgh is going to go with that quarterback. But why not have a young guy they can develop? I'm going to have them go Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon at 85. Chargers at 86. They got an edge rusher and a halfback. Why not add to the offense? I think, because once Colson Loveland goes at the tight end position, it kind of drops off for a little bit. But I think we are now in the range of picks where the tight ends can start going again. So I like Gunnar Helm to the Chargers at 86. Packers at 87. I think they go. Honestly, they might not need a guy like Joshua Farmer, but he's the best player on the boards, and sometimes that's what teams do. I like Josh Farmer to the Packers at 87. Jags at 88. They need help at corner, I'd say. They could go D-line. That you could go Omar Norman Lott as well. But they got Derek Harmon, so I like them going corner here. Kobe Bryant to the Jags at 88. Texans at 89. This is where I think you go D-line here. I know there's Omar Norman Lott, but I still like Deon Walker. I don't know why we're not talking about Deon Walker as much as maybe we should. So I like him to the Texans at 89. Rams at 90. They got a corner. So I think you finally can address the O-line. You got Charles Grant out of William and Mary. So I like Charles Grant to the Rams at 90. Ravens at 91. They got a tackle and a receiver. Elijah Roberts is sitting right here at edge rusher. They need some help on the edge. You're not going to take any of the corners. I like Roberts to the Ravens at 91. Jets at 92. They have a corner. They have a tight end. Both Michigan guys. They're obviously not keeping Aaron Rodgers back. And since they're the Jets and like a big market, I could see them very much signing a veteran quarterback and then drafting a guy. But without Milroe available, I think they pass in the second. But in the third, there's some good guys here. I'll have them go Will Howard out of Ohio State at pick 92. Saints at 93. I think this is where you see Omar Norman Lott fall. They need some help on the D-line. Too good to pass up on. And I think the next best guy on this board also goes to the Browns at 94. That is Quinshon Judkins. Nick Chubb's probably going to leave. Outside of Jerome Ford, you don't have much. Get a very quality running back out of Quinshon Judkins at 94. Chiefs at 95. They got their O-line set. They got a D lineman. They could go one of the tight ends because Kelsey could retire at any season now. But I don't think they go tight end. I think they go Kevin Winston here at out of Penn State. A versatile safety because their secondary wasn't the best. I know it was a little injured, but mainly I think their safeties weren't the best. And Kevin Winston can be that versatile safety for him that I think Spags can use very well. I had him take Xavier Watts before, but with him out the board, I like Kevin Winston as that next best versatile safety. Eagles at 96. I like Jeffrey Bassa to them. Again, they don't have too many needs, but they already got a receiver. They already got a pass rusher. Why not get a very solid linebacker in Bassa? Vikings at 97. They got a corner. They need some help on that D-line. I like Jordan Phillips to the Vikings at 97. Dolphins at 98. They got a tackle and a safety. They could go interior O-line here with a Luke Kandra, but I think they go D-line here. Well, actually, without any of the top D linemen available, maybe not. I will have them go with Luke Kandra. Maybe a bit of a reach, but they need help on that O-line so bad. So I like Luke Kandra to the Dolphins at 98. Niners at 99. It doesn't say they need safety, but they could lose Hufanga to free agency. And if that's the case, I think they then need safety. I like Lathan Ransom to the Niners at 99. And last pick, Rams at 100. Their number one needs a tight end. They're staring right at a pretty solid tight end for pick 100 in Elijah Arroyo. I think it's an easy pick for the Rams at 100. And that concludes our 3-round mock draft. I know I went by it a little fast, but it was 100 picks we had to get through. Here's the first round. Quick overview. And then I'll quickly scroll through the results as we're outroing this video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like. Also, make sure to subscribe. It helps the channel a lot if you subscribe. Very much appreciated. It's a simple click of a button. It just pops up when you're watching the video. You hit it, you subscribe, and if you want, you can turn the notification bell on so you don't miss more videos as we talk about this NFL offseason. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.